Ladies and gentlemen, seekers and skeptics, let me ask you something. If God were speaking to you right now, would you even notice? Or would you be too busy searching for a thunderous voice from the heavens, waiting for some grand declaration, expecting an unmistakable booming announcement? But what if I told you God doesn't always speak like that? In fact, most of the time God doesn't speak at all in the way we expect. Silence. It is a thing we often fear, avoid, drown out with noise and distractions. We fill our days with music, with conversation, with the endless hum of activity, as if silence were an enemy to be conquered. But what if I told you that silence is where God speaks the loudest? What if, in the absence of sound, there is a presence, a voice deeper than words? Think of a great symphony. What makes the music so powerful is not just the notes, but the spaces between them, the pauses, the rests, the silence. Without them, there would be no meaning, no rhythm, no contrast. And so it is with life. Silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything. But here's the problem: most of us are uncomfortable with it. We sit alone in a quiet room, and immediately our minds begin to chatter, a stream of thoughts, worries, unfinished business, old regrets, future anxieties. We think silence is empty, but really, it is full of everything we have tried to ignore. And so we resist it, we run from it, because it forces us to confront ourselves. Yet, if we sit with it long enough, something begins to happen. The noise of the mind settles. The constant mental commentary starts to fade, like waves receding from the shore. And in that stillness, something else arises, a deep awareness, an inexplicable sense of presence. It is as if a door has quietly opened, and for the first time we are able to perceive something greater than ourselves. The mystics, the sages, the great teachers of all traditions have spoken of this. They withdrew into the mountains, into the deserts, into the forests, not to escape the world, but to hear it more clearly. And what did they discover? That silence is alive. It is not empty. It is full of wisdom, of guidance, of something beyond words. You may not hear a voice in the way you expect. No thunder, no declarations, no celestial commands. But in the quiet, you may feel a knowing, a sudden clarity, a moment of deep peace that cannot be explained, only experienced. It is as if something deep within you already knows the truth, and only needed the silence to remember. And so, if you wish to hear God speak, do not seek noise. Do not chase after endless words and explanations. Instead, be still. Become quiet. Allow yourself to settle into that vast open space where everything unnecessary falls away. It is there, in that sacred silence, that you will find what you have been looking for all along. Have you ever had a moment when everything seemed to align perfectly and events, people, and messages arrived in your life at just the right time, as if the universe itself were conspiring to tell you something? A book falls into your hands that speaks directly to your situation. A song plays with lyrics that answer a question weighing on your mind. You think of an old friend and suddenly they call. These moments feel too precise to be chance, too meaningful to be coincidence. And perhaps they aren't. There is something remarkable about the way life weaves together seemingly unrelated threads into a pattern, a design we often fail to recognize in the moment. But if we pay attention, if we step back and observe, we may begin to see that there is an intelligence behind it all, something arranging, guiding, whispering through the fabric of reality. Carl Jung called it synchronicity, the meaningful connection between seemingly unrelated events. He saw it not as mere randomness, but as a glimpse into the deeper nature of existence, an indication that our lives are part of a greater whole. And if that is true, then what we call coincidence might actually be a conversation, a dialogue between the divine and ourselves. But the problem is, most of us don't notice it. We rush through life, busy, distracted, absorbed in our own thoughts. We dismiss these signs as accidents, mere statistical probabilities, flukes. We ignore the quiet rhythm of guidance unfolding around us. Yet when we do start to notice, when we open our eyes and our hearts to the possibility that life is speaking, we find that these moments happen far more often than we ever realize. The key is presence, awareness, a willingness to be astonished. Imagine walking through a vast library, blindfolded, reaching out at random, and pulling down a book only to find that the words on the page answer the very question that has been haunting you. Some would say it is just luck. But if it happens again, and again and again, at what point do we stop calling it luck and start recognizing it as guidance? Perhaps the divine does not speak in the ways we expect. Perhaps the voice of God is not a booming command from the clouds, but a whisper woven into the details of our lives. A pattern revealing itself if only we are willing to look. And so, the next time life presents you with an uncanny coincidence, a moment of perfect timing, a message hidden within the ordinary, ask yourself, what if this is not chance? What if this is something greater inviting me to listen? Because the truth is, the universe is always speaking. The question is, are you paying attention? Have you ever been in a conversation where someone, without even knowing it, said exactly what you needed to hear? Maybe it was a passing comment, a casual remark, or even a joke, but somehow it struck a chord deep within you. It answered a question you had been struggling with. It gave you clarity, peace, or the courage to move forward. And you walked away wondering, how did they know? But of course, they didn't know, at least not consciously. They were simply speaking, living, going about their day. And yet, through them, something greater was speaking to you. People are messengers, whether they realize it or not. Sometimes, a stranger can say a single sentence that shifts your entire perspective. A friend can remind you of a truth you had forgotten. A child can ask a simple, innocent question that unravels an entire mystery in your mind. It is as if life itself is using the people around us to deliver the messages we most need to hear. But here's the catch: you have to be listening. Most of us move through the world absorbed in our own thoughts, impatiently waiting for our turn to speak, rather than truly hearing what others are saying. We assume conversations are just small talk, just words exchanged to pass the time. But what if we saw them differently? What if every person we encountered carried a piece of wisdom meant just for us? There are no accidents in the people we meet. Some enter our lives to challenge us, some to heal us, some to push us out of our comfort zones, and some to remind us who we truly are. And sometimes the most profound messages come from the most unexpected sources. A homeless man on the street, an old woman in a grocery store, a taxi driver telling a story from his past. If we are willing to listen, we may find that wisdom is hiding in the most ordinary places. Even those who hurt us, who frustrate us, who test our patience, what if they too are playing a role in the grand design of our growth? What if, instead of resisting or resenting them, we asked, what am I meant to learn from this? Because sometimes the most difficult people in our lives are the ones who teach us the most. And then there are those rare souls who enter our lives and change everything. The ones who appear at just the right moment, who say exactly what we need to hear, who guide us without even realizing they are doing it. These encounters feel too precise, too perfect to be coincidence. And maybe they aren't. Maybe they are part of a plan greater than we can see. If you want to know whether God is speaking to you, start paying attention to the people around you. Listen closely, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because sometimes divine guidance does not come in the form of a voice from the heavens. Sometimes it comes in the form of a friend, a stranger, or even the person you least expect. We resist it. We avoid it. We label it as something bad, something to be fixed or escaped as quickly as possible. But what if discomfort is not the enemy we think it is? What if, instead of running from it, we learn to listen to it? What if discomfort is not a punishment, but a message, one of the clearest ways God speaks to us? Think about it. When we are comfortable, when everything is easy and familiar, we rarely question anything. We move through life on autopilot, following the same routines, thinking the same thoughts, avoiding anything that challenges us. But when discomfort arises, when something unsettles us, when restlessness stirs in our soul, when a situation forces us to confront something we would rather ignore, that is when transformation begins. Discomfort is a signal. It tells us when we are in the wrong place, when we are holding on to something we need to let go of, when we are resisting a necessary change. It is the body's way, the mind's way, the soul's way of saying, pay attention. Something is not right here. But instead of paying attention, we often numb ourselves. We distract ourselves with entertainment, with work, with busyness. We drown out the discomfort with noise, hoping that if we ignore it long enough it will go away. And sometimes it does for a while. But it always returns because it is not here to hurt us. It is here to guide us. Consider the feeling of being stuck in a job you hate, the dread that creeps in every Sunday night, the frustration, the exhaustion, the quiet voice in your head saying, this isn't it. There's something more. That discomfort is not just random suffering, it is a push, a whisper from the divine telling you that you are meant for something different, something greater. Or think of relationships that no longer serve you. The tension, the feeling of being drained, the sense that you are not growing, not thriving, not truly seen. That discomfort is not something to suppress. It is a call to action, a sign that something needs to shift. Even physical discomfort, the tightness in your chest, the exhaustion in your bones can be a message. The body often knows what the mind refuses to acknowledge. And if we do not listen to the gentle nudges, they grow louder. Discomfort ignored turns into suffering prolonged. But when we begin to see discomfort as a teacher, everything changes. Instead of running from it, we sit with it. We ask, what is this trying to show me? What truth am I avoiding? What needs to change? And suddenly, the discomfort that once felt unbearable becomes something else entirely. It becomes clarity. The caterpillar must struggle in the cocoon before it can become a butterfly. The seed must break apart before it can grow into a tree. And we too must go through discomfort to reach the next version of ourselves. Growth is not comfortable. Change is not easy. But stagnation, remaining where we no longer belong, is far worse. So, the next time you feel restless, frustrated, uneasy, pause. Instead of silencing the discomfort, listen to it. It may just be the voice of God, guiding you to where you are meant to be. It is one of the purest, most unfiltered experiences of being alive, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. We often treat joy as something fleeting, something that comes and goes without warning, a random burst of happiness that arrives when life is good and disappears when life is hard. But what if joy is not something that happens to us? What if joy is something speaking to us? What if joy is one of the clearest ways God communicates, not in words, not in commandments, but in an undeniable, radiant feeling of yes? Think about the last time you felt true, unshakable joy. Not just momentary pleasure or excitement, but deep joy, the kind that makes you feel weightless, expansive, fully alive. Maybe it came when you were laughing with a loved one, when you stood in awe of a breathtaking sunset, when music moved through you in a way you couldn't explain, or when you were lost in the flow of something you love to do. In those moments, didn't you feel something beyond yourself? A presence, a connection, as if for just a moment, everything made sense and nothing was missing? That is not an accident. That is not just a chemical reaction in your brain. That is divine communication. That is life itself telling you, this is real, this is true, this is where your soul belongs. But the strange thing is, we don't always trust joy. We doubt it. We tell ourselves it's too good to last, that it's an illusion, that we must be careful not to get too comfortable. Society conditions us to believe that struggle is noble, that suffering is meaningful, that life must always be serious, and that joy is just a distraction from reality. But what if joy is reality? What if joy is not something we are meant to experience occasionally, but something we are meant to follow? Children understand this instinctively. Watch a child play, dance, or create without self-consciousness, without overthinking. They do not need permission to be joyful. They do not question whether they deserve it. They simply follow what feels alive, what makes them laugh, what fills them with wonder, and in doing so, they are completely in the present moment, connected to something vast and infinite without even trying. But as we grow older, we suppress this. We tell ourselves we must be practical, responsible, serious. We trade joy for obligation, for worry, for endless mental calculations about what we should be doing, instead of what makes us feel alive. And yet the whispers of joy never disappear. They show up when we least expect them, when we are lost in a book, when we catch the scent of rain, when we share a knowing glance with someone we love. Little moments, little reminders. The question is, do we listen? Because joy is not just a gift, it is a guide. It shows us where we are meant to be. It reveals what aligns with our soul. If something makes you feel deeply joyful, truly, expansively joyful, that is not meaningless. That is life pointing you in a direction. That is God saying, here, this way. This is the path meant for you. That is why the most fulfilled people in the world do not chase happiness. They follow joy. They notice what lights them up, what gives them energy rather than drains it, what fills them with a sense of purpose. And they lean into it, trust it, walk toward it, even when it makes no logical sense. Because deep down they understand joy is not just a feeling. It is a signpost, it is a language, it is a call home. And so if you wish to know when God is speaking to you, pay attention to joy. Pay attention to what expands your heart, what brings you peace, what makes you feel most you. Do not dismiss it. Do not second guess it. Follow it. Because joy is not just a fleeting emotion, it is the divine in motion, showing you the way. And so, we come to the truth that has been there all along. God is always speaking. Not in the ways we expect, not in the grand thundering voice from the sky, but in the quiet, subtle, yet undeniable ways that life itself unfolds before us. In silence, when the noise of the world fades and we finally hear the whisper of something deeper. In synchronicity, when the right message arrives at the perfect moment, too precise to be mere coincidence. In people who unknowingly become messengers, delivering words that shift our souls. In discomfort, which shakes us awake and urges us toward growth, even when we resist. And in joy, which calls us home to our true path, showing us what is meant for us. The question is not whether God is speaking. The question is whether we are listening. Because life, in all its complexity, its mystery, its beauty, is a conversation. Every moment, every experience, every feeling is a piece of that dialogue. And when we stop searching for a voice in the clouds and start paying attention to the voice woven into the very fabric of our existence, we realize God has been speaking all along. So open your heart, pay attention, listen, because the answers you seek may already be here, waiting for you to hear them.